Well, my distinguished friends, my future began in 1962. I was 7 years old, and there was this movie I absolutely had to see. My mother didn't understand why I had to see this film. She had no interest in it. I'm not sure I knew why I had to see this film, but being the wonderful person that she was, on a gray, cold afternoon, she dropped me off at the Beverly Warner Theater to watch this film. It was the first time I'd been to a movie all by myself. Well, I bought my ticket and went in, bought a measure of popcorn and a Coke, went into the giant auditorium. It was one of those beautiful plush palaces that hardly any of them exist anymore. And I found a seat and got ready. Well, as the lights dimmed, music came on, and the lights didn't go down all the way, but the music started with a crash of drums, 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 drums. And then it was followed by a cacophony of brass, that discordant tune that they played. And then it mellowed out to the drums going down, and then went into the strings and the unforgettable tune that opens Lawrence of Arabia. The film has an intermission. And during that intermission, I realized that I hadn't touched my popcorn or my Coke. And I took a few quick handfuls. The music came on again, the lights went down, the second half of the film played. At the end of that, I saw that once again, I had not touched my popcorn or my Coke, because for the last 4 hours, I had not been in that seat. I had been in Damascus, I had been in Aqaba, and all the places that film takes us. And it was quite an eye-opener for a 7-year-old, because first of all, it transported me to a completely different world, a completely different universe. And I understood things I had never understood before. I understood that a man who had become a hero and let himself become a little bit of a monster towards the end. And the phrase that I thought of was that Lawrence of Arabia had changed history, but history had changed him into something else, which was quite a realization for a 7-year-old to come to. But it changed my life. I went outside and my mother picked me up, and she said, "How was the film?" And I couldn't answer. And all I could say was, "I want to do what he did." She said, "What, go to Arabia?" I said, No. I want to do what Peter O'Toole did. I want to transport people. I want to change their lives. I want to expand their horizons, which is what he had done for me. Now, as a short, cross-eyed kid with a really bad stutter, of course, I wanted to become an actor from that day forward. And in high school and in college, I worked on it. I got on stage as often as I could, which was quite a lot. And that helped take the stutter away. I never got over being short, I'm afraid, but that's the way it goes. And then I auditioned for the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art in my third year in college. I had to go to New York for it. It was my first time in the Big Apple. Can you imagine a 20-year-old in New York for the first time alone? I was in heaven. I auditioned, and 2 months later, the word came down that I was in.
Wow.
And in September, I showed up there. And my very first day at the Academy, after we had done with the classes. In one of our classes, we were introducing ourselves, and the person next to me said his name was Greg Martin. And sort of as a joke, I said, well, any relation to the Martin that manages the Beatles? And he looked at me with ice cold eyes and said, yes, he's my father.
Whoa.
I decided not to pursue that line any further, but I felt like I was okay. I'm in amongst a different set that I've ever been before. When all that was over, I just wanted to walk through the building and get a feel for the place. And I walked into one room, and on the wall there was a cabinet, and the cabinet had doors that swung open, and you could see it was an awards cabinet that people had signed. It was the Bancroft Award. It was the highest award that you could receive when graduating from the academy. And I just went down the names. And of course, we didn't have the internet then, so I didn't know that truly the who's who of British performing had been to that school, and their signatures were up there on that award. And I went down them, Albert Finney, on and on and on, until I came to Peter O'Toole. I didn't know he'd gone there. And at that instant, I realized I was home. I had come full circle. Well, after I left the academy, I came back to Los Angeles, and I formed a theater company with a few of my comrades. And I spent 10 wonderful years as an actor, writer, director. But Hollywood wasn't for me. And I think Hollywood and I both agreed on that. So I decided to go into business because having formed the theater company, I had a little taste of business, and I found it fascinating. And so I did. But as the years wore on, something wasn't right. Something was wrong. And I'm not proud to say it, but I got into the fashion of the time, which was cocaine. I didn't go in terribly deeply. I never spent more money than I had, but I spent my money on a fool's errand. And one day I was listening to the album The Wall by Pink Floyd. And one of the songs in there hit me like a wet towel in the face. And particularly one lyric. And that lyric was, when I was a child, I caught a fleeting glimpse out of the corner of my eye. I turned to look, but it was gone. The child had grown. The dream was gone. I am comfortably numb. And I realized that song was talking directly to me. And I had to get out of it. I did. And I eventually moved on to a wonderful company, the Walt Disney Company, the Disney Store. And I found a purpose there because I loved what we did. I loved what we were doing. And one day I had had a bad day. Things didn't go very, very well in the office. And I walked across the street to the Glendale Galleria, where our #1 store was. It was between 3 and 4 in the afternoon. I just wanted to stand in the store and think. And I saw at the back of the store, in those days, we had a plush mountain, all these plush toys in a huge pyramid mountain. And I saw on the floor there a young mother and her child playing with a plush toy. And I thought, that's what I do. This is my current purpose. I create that scene hundreds, maybe thousands of times a day with a young mother and her child playing in the Disney store. Once again, I felt I was at home. Well, after I left the Disney company, I went to another company and things were okay. It just wasn't the experience. It was a grocery chain, and it just didn't give me the same thrill that the Walt Disney Company did. And once again, I found myself comfortably numb. And I didn't want to go there again. Interestingly, right around that time, one of the vice presidents announced that he was starting a Toastmasters club for his department. And I thought to myself, well, you know, if Shakespeare, if Eugene O'Neill, you know, any number of great writers out there, Tennessee Williams, if they're writing my words, I feel very comfortable. But can I write my own? And that was the challenge I gave to myself. And so I joined this Toastmasters club. 4 years later, I was standing on the big stage in Connecticut at the International Toastmasters Convention as one of the 10 finalists for the World Championship of Public Speaking. I didn't win, but I didn't care because the person that did win gave the best little 5 to 7 minute gem I had ever seen before or since. So I consider that a noble loss on my part. But the point is, it proved to me, maybe I can do this. Maybe this is something I should be doing. I started out wanting to change the world, wanting to expand people's minds. Maybe this is a way that I can do it. And when the contest was over, a gentleman came running down the aisle towards me. And he grabbed both my hands and he said, "Thank you so much. I so needed to hear that. My wife passed away 6 months ago, and you gave me hope." I didn't need any more convincing. I realized once again, I was home. And I've been there ever since. And I've been on a quest to make sure as many people as possible do not become comfortably numb like I had. My goal is to spark the excellence and the creativity that resides in all of us, but life beats us down and makes us put that away just to get through the day. And my hope is that I can help as many people as possible break through that. Back to you.
Carl, that was like,
Thank you, Carl. Yeah, that was great.
I was busy taking notes. I was like, oh my God, that's good. Wow. You know, why don't we, let's, does anyone have any questions for Carl? We'll have to keep it short because we want to get Stephen on, but you know, it'd be a good time to, if anyone has something that they'd like to throw in, please do.
Carl, that was a great speech. I really enjoyed it. I just have 2 comments. One is Lawrence of Arabia was my all-time favorite movie also. And 2, you're talking about cocaine. Cocaine is God's way of telling you that you have too much money. That's my comment.
I agree totally on both points. I would, however, put Citizen Kane up there alongside Lawrence of Arabia.
Yeah, that's good. Bert?
Yeah, Carl, I just wanted to mention, I put it in chat, the Harkness table at Phillips Exeter Academy, which is the oval table. And you might want to take a look at it if you haven't seen it before, because it shows the whole scientific basis around it. It shows some really interesting stuff. I sent it to everybody if you wanted to see it.
Excellent. Thank you.
Take a look at that. Sure.
Thank you. Thank you. I see it here.
Patricia?
Well, one, I didn't know some of that story. That was really great. Part of my tradition at Christmas is to bring out all my Dorset books, and I just ran in to find something I was looking at, and this is a book I bought of the most beautiful etched glass windows of the church where the real Laurence Olivier is buried, which is in Dorset.
Excellent. Excellent.
And I couldn't find it, but I will, and I'll show you another time.
Yes.
And-
Any photos in there of that? I'd love to see.
Yeah. And then once I was coming off a plane in London, and Peter O'Toole was there in a cape and a hat meeting some young lady. I'm sure it was his granddaughter or somebody, but yeah, exactly. So that's my brush with Laurence Olivier fame, but that was wonderful. Thank you. And it is nice to track back to the moments that really began where we ended up. And there's always someone, everybody has their moment, whether they realize it or not. So that was great. Wonderful. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Patricia. Let's move on to our next incoming member, Stephen Campbell.
Hello. Well, I was raised with 6 children, 6 brothers and sisters: Shirley, Sally, Steve, Susie, Scott, and Skip. I'm a first-year baby boomer, born in 1947. My father came home from the war and I popped out 9 months later. My father was a physician and my sister was an RN, and so I wanted to be a doctor. So I entered San Diego State College back in 1966 to study medicine and become a physician. In 1969, I was driving a dear friend back to the San Diego State campus, which is up on a mesa, and a young man was driving down the same road that I was driving up, and in an attempt to kill himself, he suddenly ran over the middle aisle and smashed into the guardrail on my side, and then his car skidded around and I ran into his back with my VW Bug. He was driving an Olds 88. Dwayne was killed instantly and my body was crushed, but that's when I began to become a very good friend with my brain. My brain didn't allow me to wake up for 2 weeks. He said to me, "I don't want you to see this." And so he didn't, and it was wonderful. As I gradually woke up, I realized that my legs had been broken, my arms, my face had been crushed in. And I was in the hospital for about 12 weeks. And then the doctor said, "We now need to put you into a spica body cast." And they did. And they laid me on the bed, and a spica body cast starts at your toe and goes up to your chest. And basically they have bars in the middle so you can go to the bathroom. And I asked them how long I would be in this. And they said about 12 weeks. I cried all night. That was when I finally lost it. Talked to the Lord for a very long time. And then as I lay in the bed, I was saying to myself, "I cannot do this. I cannot do this. I cannot do this. I cannot do this." And it was then that I realized that that was a lie. I could do it. And my brain said, "Oh, okay, yes, you can." And it did. And that was when my life began to change. That's when I began realizing that your brain truly believes everything you tell it, whether it is true or not. Eventually, I went back to school, barely made it through. But you know what happened after that? I became a professional singer. And I traveled around America for 2 years singing. And it was on that tour that I met my wife, Mary. Is 1 year in a hospital worth 50 years with Mary? Not even a question. I could not become a physician, but I decided to work in hospitals. So I basically went down to the nearest skilled nursing facility, began working as an orderly, and then became a buyer. And for the next 20 years, I worked in hospitals as a materials manager. And then in 1989, I was fired for the 5th time in 10 years because hospitals were going through tremendous changes. And as I was driving home, I stopped by a coffee shop. And for the first time in my life, I said to myself, okay, Steve, this isn't working out. What do you really love doing? If you could do anything in the world, what would it be? And I realized it was teaching. So I went back to college, got a graduate degree in computer science, and I began teaching computer courses. And I began loving it. And I found myself teaching beginning students how to take notes, how to study. And I am an expert in cognitive psychology. So I began teaching that also. And at one particular college, the president noticed that when students took my course, they wouldn't drop out. So during the years that I taught a course in how to study, how to take notes, the retention at the college went up something outlandishly high. And I taught there for about 20 years. Then in 2008, my wife sat me down when I was 62 and said, okay, because I was also running the evening school, your dad died at 61 and you're 62 working 14 hours a day. If you die early, I'll kill you. So I said, okay. So I retired. But I realized the message that I had developed was so wonderful that I went down to the nearest senior center. And I walked in, I said, you know what? I have this message. Would you like to hear it? And I did. And I developed a little 10-hour presentation series. And I began teaching it all to all of the senior centers in Sonoma County, all for free. And then this place called the Verena, which is up in the hills of Santa Rosa, called and they said, we'd like for you to speak it here. Would you like to see our facility? The Verena is where the billionaires retire. Their own lake, their own golf course, their own everything. I was blown away. And they said, we'd like for you to present your stuff here. What is your fee? My fee, yes, what do you charge? I've never charged anything before. Well, don't you think you should have a fee? Oh my gosh. So I gave them the fee and they said, yes, we'll pay it. And then people began saying, where's your book? What book? Don't you have a book? Well, I've written 2 college textbooks on computer software. No, you have to write a book. So I wrote the book and the book started selling really, really crazy. And then people began paying me. And then people began asking me to speak from all over the world. And as I look back on my life, I'm amazed because I never really asked for any of all this, but it's here. And now we have our 2 daughters with their children. In fact, when I can hear the children scream in the other room, and everything is great. So what would I say if I summarize my life? Number 1, I'm a Christian, but mainly, more than that, I've learned to listen to what you're saying to yourself about yourself, because your brain's believing everything you tell it. You say, I can do it. The brain says, absolutely. And then it looks for a way to become your very, very best friend. Thanks. Thank you.
You know, I've heard you give various, presentations before, but it's just always interesting to me, the different aspects of Stephen Campbell's life. And you're really a Renaissance man in so many ways.
Thank you.
To go through all these different iterations, and yet there's this consistency through it all.
Thank you, Craig.
So thank you so much for sharing.
Sure.
Would anyone like to ask any questions of Steve right now? I see Patricia's hands up. Patricia?
I would say, what's next? What are you looking forward to for the next 2 or 3 years?
Well, we are going to do some traveling. We just paid off our mortgage, so we have more money. we are enjoying our daughters and our children. And so I think we're going to travel. I'm finding myself working less and less, which is nice. I had a radio program, which I just stopped because I've been doing it for 12 years. So now I don't have to leave early. I can be with you the whole time. So I'm just enjoying.
What's it like not having a mortgage?
It's wonderful. It's so wonderful. I look at this house and I say, oh my goodness, we own this. Can't believe it. Cannot believe it. Yeah.
Bill, I see your hands up.
Stephen, great presentation. Thanks very much for the insights into your life.
Thank you.
Just curious to know, any plans for another book?
People have said you have to write 7 books in order for them to be really, really profit. I've written 4. I don't like writing books just to simply write a book. So at this point, I don't think so. I don't think so. Yeah. Thank you, though.
All right. Well, I see two more hands up. Betty Tash's hands up. So Betty, and then Antonio White.
Thank you for Carl and Stephen for both presentations.
Thank you.
Very enlightening, informative, and thanks for sharing. I loved your comment at the end, Stephen, about your brain is your best friend. And I just think that resonates so beautifully with attitude, and it's all about attitude and so forth. And I just wanted to say thank you for that quote. I really don't have a question. Except I'm so glad both of you are a part of the Golden Gate Breakfast Club. So
Thank you, Betty. Thank you. Thank you.
I agree. Mr. White.
Thank you, Mr. President. Carl and Stephen, first of all, Carl, one word, powerful presentation. And I'm in agreement with you and Alan regarding Lawrence of Arabia. It's such an important film. And Stephen, you've had a profound, not only your story, but your insight into the brain and how it works has been actually something I've applied in what I'm doing. So I just want to thank you. When people apply things that I do, I love to hear it. I just want to make sure that you hear that I'm applying things that you've shared with me and through the course of the Breakfast Club this year. And I'm just so very grateful to you as well. Thank you for your story and thank you for what you do.
Thank you for telling me that. It makes me feel wonderful. Thank you.
All right, guys, it's 8:42 right now, but why don't we just take a moment? We've got Carl Walsh and we have Stephen Campbell here, and we have to give them the Golden Gate Breakfast Club yay or nay. All right, so if everyone will thumbs up or thumbs down, guys.
Whoa.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
I would say you guys are honorary Golden Gate Breakfast Club members as of today, and you welcome, and you are now eligible for all the rights and privileges of this fine organization.
Thank you, Greg.
You're welcome. And Tony, would you take the time to teach them the secret handshake privately when you have a moment? Excellent.
You bet, Mr. President.
All right, with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up today's meeting. And we have a board meeting coming up. So if you guys are in the board, put